Welcome to our channel. The primary objective of the SADF's second assault on Cuito Cuanavale was 59 Brigade, which South African commanders viewed as a key part of the FAPLA defense on the Chambinga high ground. Once 59 Brigade was pushed back to the river, the remaining brigades would have to retreat or risk being encircled. The South Africans also intended to attack 21 Brigade, which had returned to its previous positions, but due to limited resources, they assigned this task to UNITA while planning a simultaneous strike between 21 and 59 brigades. The assault began on the 14th of February with a heavy bombardment of both brigades, allowing 61 mech and UNITA to position themselves between the two and launch coordinated attacks. This created confusion at FAPLA HQ, as both brigades thought they were the main target, leading to disorganized reinforcements. At 2 p.m., a squadron of elephants broke through 59 Brigade's forward positions, and resistance intensified near the brigade's HQ bunker. The South Africans then combined Retell forces with the elephants to neutralize key gun positions. After several 23mm guns were destroyed, the FAPLA forces abandoned their positions and retreated to Tumpo. A brief counterattack by the brigade's tank force fell into disorder when the South Africans jammed its communications, allowing the elephants to destroy at least 4 T-55 tanks before the brigade withdrew. As 59 Brigade's forces began to collapse, its commander urgently requested reinforcements. In response, 3 Tank Battalion was ordered to launch a counterattack. 7 tanks from the Cuban Tactical Group, led by Lieutenant Colonel Ciro Gomez Betancourt, spearheaded the force as it advanced east towards 59 Brigade's position, though 1 tank broke down on the way. The South Africans intercepted FAPLA's signal and sent 61 mech to confront the Cuban tanks, leading to the first tank battle of the Angola War. The dense bush reduced visibility, and the Cuban tank force unexpectedly engaged in a chaotic, close-range firefight with the South Africans. The fighting was intense, and the Cuban tanks impressed the elephant commanders with their aggressive and often suicidal attacks, charging directly into the South African squadron in search of targets. With the range between the opposing tanks reduced to as little as 100 yards, the Cuban commander had to keep his tank in motion. By the end of the day, his tank was the only one still operational, despite being hit 3 times. As night fell, communication broke down on both sides, and the South Africans began to retreat. This gave the Cuban commander, who had rammed a tree and camouflaged his tank under foliage, the chance to gather 9 Cuban survivors, including 6 severely wounded, and withdraw just before dawn. The South African attack on the 14th of February was another decisive victory, forcing FAPLA to retreat from the Chambinga high ground. After a failed attempt to reclaim 59 Brigade's positions the next day, FAPLA withdrew to their last stronghold, the Tumpo Triangle. FAPLA suffered significant losses, with over 500 soldiers killed and 17 tanks along with 18 other vehicles destroyed. In addition, many Cubans were killed, 14 of them during the tank counterattack, and at least 2 were made prisoners. While the Cubans claimed to have destroyed a dozen South African armored cars and caused severe casualties to UNITA, South African reports show only 4 deaths and 7 injuries, all of which occurred when a Retell was struck by a single 23mm round. With the second phase of their operation complete, the South Africans began planning their assault on the Tumpo Triangle, aiming to finish their campaign by the end of February. After the near disaster on the 14th of February, and following Castro's orders, the remaining FAPLA and Cuban forces were moved across the river, except for the 25th Brigade and the 3rd Tank Battalion, which were tasked with defending the bridge and the Tumpo Triangle. In preparation for the anticipated South African attack, 25 Brigade strengthened its defenses with bunkers, trenches, and tank obstacles, while Cuban sappers laid extensive minefields to block every possible approach. The minefields served 2 purposes: delaying the South African advance and marking their position for the numerous artillery pieces positioned on the high ground. With the fighting concentrated in a defensible area and Cuban air power fully deployed, the military advantage shifted in FAPLA's favor, presenting the South Africans with their greatest challenge yet. Continue watching our videos to learn more about the Angola War.